Hello, community. This is Wendy Stern. I'm here with you today, and I'm continuing with this new platform to share with you amazing resources that we have in our community to help us through all kinds of grief and loss. And I am so excited and deeply honored to have my dear, dear friend who's also a therapist and a parenting coach and a mother and a wife and just an amazing, amazing human on this earth, bringing her work of connection and listening to so many. And I'm so excited and happy to have you here with us today, Deb. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I'm so happy we have this time to connect. And I want to just invite you to speak a little bit about kind of what you do and kind of what led you on this path that you're walking today.
Okay, well, thank you. So, I think my mom would say I was born a therapist. I kind of came out of the womb just like really being intrigued with humans and the mind and the way it works, and above all, how people learn to connect with themselves and connect with others. And I became a therapist back in 2006, and was really focused on couples and relationships and individual therapy, but couples was kind of my primary focus. And I did that for a really long time, I think 16 years, and primarily. And in that time, I like really started to understand and learn the intricacies of connection and how complicated it is and how many layers there are. And with that came a lot of skill building. And I think that's actually why I really loved couples work, because it was like a lot of process and insight and, typical therapy, but mixed with psychoeducation and skill building and tools and action oriented work. So anyway, long story short, somewhere along the way, I became a mother and and started, realizing that I was getting projected on left and right about having two girls. And people would say things like, "Oh my God, the drama, blah, blah, blah." And, they were right in some ways that there's a lot of drama with raising girls, but I also had this really strong conviction to change that story, to change the story of how girls are perceived, um, and also change the story of how mothers and daughters um, kind of trigger each other and have to fall apart in order to come back, and how it's just going to be really hard and just kind of trust it and it'll come back. That was the messaging. And that's what the movies would say and all the things. So, anyway, somewhere along the way, I got really intrigued by taking the connection work that I had done with couples and transferring it to connection work with mothers and daughters. And since then, that has evolved and taken, I'm a bit of a shapeshifter through my work a lot, and it's taken lots of forms. And now, today, I'm not doing couples anymore, but I'm mostly working with parents in a therapeutic setting where we're still doing a lot of insight-oriented work mixed with action and strategy of the coaching world. So I blended them together. And I do workshops with moms only, with dads only, with moms and daughters together. And I'm just about to launch my first, in a long time, empowerment workshop for seventh and eighth grade girls. So that's sort of my world. I love the messiness and the intricacies of adolescence and mothering and fathering. And that's me. That was a lot.
It was perfect and amazing. And what I love, Deb, through everything you just shared is that it's like following the breadcrumbs of like what you're experiencing and what a beautiful natural fit to apply, a decade or more of work in the couple space, right? Around connection to what was like alive in you, which was raising your daughters. And raising
Yes.
two daughters myself, every single word you said, I resonated with is truth, right? And I love that you were able to take those same skills, practices, concepts, and apply them to the relationship of raising daughters or raising kids in the world today. And I think it is so needed. And one of the reasons why I invited you here as a resource for a community that is going through grief and loss is the recognition that we go through many, many little griefs and losses all day, every day when we're raising kids. And so much of it, I imagine you see in your practice in how do we navigate that? How do we navigate our own experience as we're supporting and empowering our kids to become who they are? So I want to just invite you to kind of speak to that aspect of your work.
Yes, I love that invitation because, when we've been friends a really long time and colleagues, and I get to sit front and center to the grief work that you do. And when I started to actually look at this relationship through the lens of grief, it actually really changed and impacted the way I could support parents to see the different developmental stages of their children and how what that activates for a parent and how there's multiple levels of grief that come up within each developmental shift. So one thing I love to say is when you're parenting a 9-year-old, the 9-year-old in you is alive and well. And that happens all along the way. We get to kind of like revisit our childhoods, and it's, in a really beautiful way when we can peek in through an adult lens. So there's not only the grieving process that's happening with our sense of self when we first become a mother. I mean, let's start at the beginning. Like, there's the grieving of what we knew as a maiden and as a independent to suddenly totally lose that and be 100% connected to someone else. And so that's where the grief begins. And then, of course, with grief, there's always a light shadow. Like, I think this is the best part of your work is you don't see grief just through a dark lens. You're always inviting the light and the growth and the gratitude of what comes out of these changes and loss. And so it starts there. And then every stage along the way, we're managing our own grief around them growing up and what that's like, and them changing and becoming who they are and learning who they are, and not just being an extension of us. Simultaneous to that is being a witness to their losses. And they are going through little losses all the time, whether it's around a friendship, around, you know, like a loss of their innocence, a loss of their relationship with a teacher, a loss of anything, like losing their virginity, everything that kind of comes along the way. We are the steady force that holds them through that. And so working with our own grief and there simultaneously is, when done consciously, is such a beautiful experience to be part of. It's truly a spiritual experience in every way.
Mm, totally. It's so beautifully said, Deb. And I think, you're speaking to is like, it's the experience of our children, or, for you, like witnessing what people are going through with their children and where you are with your own. But there's also so much of an opportunity for our own healing that comes with this, right? And I want to just kind of highlight what you said around how when you're parenting a 9-year-old, all of a sudden your 9-year-old is alive there. So we have this amazing opportunity as parents to go back in to heal some of those undigested wounds, right? Some of that old grief that is maybe deep, deep in our system, probably have no idea that it's there. Um, and then here's the opportunity for that to come out and to be worked with and integrated into our adult selves. So, the work you do has so many layers around supporting, yes, parents to parent their children, but parenting themselves. And I've heard you speak to that, right? The work of like parenting ourselves as we're going through this journey. And if you want to speak more to that, go ahead. Or if there's somewhere else you want to go, just enjoying the conversation.
Totally. I mean, you said so many nuggets. I think one piece that I want to touch on is this opportunity for like deep relationship with self that actually, when we're in these stages of parenting that are really crunchy, that is, I think, one of the best chances to do your own work so that you're not projecting onto your kid. Because we're projectors. We just do it. We do it all the time, all of us humans. And so when we are actually raising a child to, like I said before, become themselves and not another version of us or this idea of who we thought they might be. I mean, there's grief there too, by the way. That's a
Mhm.
big grief conversation we have in our groups. For me, I just share a quick personal digression that I was the kid that was always the first to jump in the swimming pool, like no matter what. And I had my first daughter was the kid that sat on the edge of the swimming pool, and that's a big metaphor too, but she sat on the edge of the swimming pool and would just eat crackers and like couldn't get enough crackers. And I remember all the other kids were jumping in the swimming pool, and I had to have like a real conversation with myself of like, oh, she is not me. This is not me. She is her own person, and this is what the swimming pool means for her to sit on the edge. Anyway, so that's like that was such a big part of my journey. And actually, when I had this very young epiphany as a young mother, that she came into the world with her own agenda and her own karma, I felt so much relief
Mm.
and like unburdening in that moment of letting her be who she is. And I have to work at that every single day with both my kids, just to say. Um, so anyway, where was I?
Well, I just want to highlight what you just said. And it's like in our groups, we do sparkle fingers when we like some things. I want to give sparkle fingers
So cute.
because I love the reframe on this, right? And it is kind of a reframe of something that can create so much stress and, unconscious projection of wanting to be a certain way and the relief that you share when you had that moment of like, that's not my job, right? They get to be who they are. And then to support that. So your kiddo that's sitting on the edge of the swimming pool, rather than jumping in as you would have done, like what a beautiful teaching of that
Mm.
that's her way, right? And that this is where that separation begins at that early age of separating out themselves. So it's like I said, so many layers to the work you do because you're helping folks navigate their own personal experience, right? And often undigested parts from earlier in their life, as they're navigating how to communicate with a teenager who's having their own experience, and then let's throw hormones into the mix, right?
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
we could talk for the next 2 hours about that.
Yes, we could.
Right?
But
And
you just said something really important. Can I interrupt you for one second? When you said the word relief, I actually took a breath and felt my whole body settle. And I think one thing I'm like learning every day as a mother and as a provider is like the moments of freedom when we can actually realize how free we are. It's like there's nothing that better that or that gives us a more present, more opportunity to be present. Because I think so often we feel really entangled with their journeys and their experience and their feelings. And you just said, that's not my job. And like, that's what you said. And I was like, right, that's it. It's not my job to feel their feelings, to control their outcomes, to these things sound so obvious, but it's hard for the brain to remember that, to make them happy. That's not my job either. You know,
and you,
it's my job to reflect them, to hold them through it, to find ways to connect when they're being shitty, when they're making really bad choices, when they're driving us crazy. That is my job. How do I still show up every day as an adult for them? Yeah. And for myself.
so beautiful, Deb. So beautiful. And this is really the value in what you're doing. I just want to say
Yeah.
these teachings.
Thank you.
And they're so from your heart. They're so from your lived, embodied experience professionally and personally. And that's what makes it the full package, in my opinion. Um,
Thank
I could talk to you all day, and
you.
I often do.
Yes, we do.
But to kind of wind down this beautiful conversation, I have two questions for you as we're kind of winding down. One is if you have like a takeaway, it could be, words of wisdom or even a practice that you want to leave our folks with today. And then I want to invite you to just to say how people can find you and things you have coming up, how people might connect with you or work with you.
Okay. Um, yeah, so I would say I love to think of things through, I'm a big visual person. I like visualize all the time. And I have a lot of visualizing techniques that I lend to my clients. But the one that I think is really important that goes in line with your journey of understanding and working and transforming grief is this idea that when we're grieving as a parent based on not a loss of a human, but the loss of a time period or the loss of a part of a relationship, or a loss of one way of connecting that is changing, that it's really important for us to remember where we have choice and where we have the ability to, I use the language, change our stance. And so every single workshop I open up with this visual, and I'm happy to share it with your community that when they're young, we are very much heart to heart and like figuratively and behaviorally. We're either nursing or bottle feeding, we're tying their little shoes, wiping their noses, zipping them up. Everything's very heart to heart faced. As they start to go into their pre-teens, really around 9 and 10, we are shifting to shoulder. And that process is actually very clunky and uncomfortable, especially when we have to be the one to adjust our stance to meet them where they're at. And we might do heart to heart, shoulder to shoulder all throughout the day. But as the parent, that's where we have choice. So when we're leaning in heart to heart, but they're actually wanting shoulder to shoulder so they can face the world and look out and see what's in front of them, it's our job to adjust our stance. And then as they get older, we actually move more to back so that they are getting ready to fly and soar and do their things. But we're still there to kind of catch them when they need us. And so that's, I guess, the thing I want to leave all of us around adjusting to change, loss, and grief is that you have the power to change your stance, which gives you a sense of agency and makes you feel a little more in control and free.
Mm, yeah,
So
chills all over my body. I
thank you. That's the heart of it all.
I love that visual and I love the way it applies to raising and letting go of our children and also to how it applies to being in grief. The feeling of having agency or sense of control and of being a little bit freer from some of the weight or the pressure can be the thing that literally changes the story or changes how we feel as we're going through, the loss of letting go of a child or the loss of something else happening in our life. So thank you. Thank you for your
Yeah.
wisdom. You bring so much to the table, Deb. It's your like deep wisdom and like therapeutic like knowledge understanding. It's like that psychoeducation piece. And then there's your big sparkle in your heart, and the authenticity of like living this journey as you're supporting others to do the same. And so,
Thank you.
so
Thank you for seeing me and supporting me. I really appreciate it. And so I'll tell you what's coming up in my world is I run a couple things. So first I have a newsletter and I send out monthly newsletters that just have like vignettes and little shares, and I don't overwhelm people's inboxes, but I love writing, and so that's a really kind of fun way to learn and understand different techniques and things. Um, and very humanizing. I do one-on-one sessions and I do couple sessions around the parenting focus, but always about the relationship too. So I still do that, and but I love my one-on-one sessions. So I'm taking new clients right now actually. And then I run a variety of workshops. They're all on my website, which is debrubin.com. And like I said earlier, there's one called Mom Magic, and that's all different ages where it's just in person moms, these 4 week, sometimes 5 week courses that are everything mom that you can imagine. Generational sexism, understanding our internal trauma, really getting into basic strategies around parenting and all the things in between. And then I do these mother-daughter workshops, and I do them for fifth graders, sixth graders, and then seventh and eighth together. And those are 1 day workshops. And then I do a bunch of public speaking, and I also do curated workshops. And that's on my website too, that a lot of people take advantage of. Let's say you have a book club and you're like, hey, can you come talk about relationships? Or can you talk about sex? Or can you talk about technology or anxiety? And so I have a huge menu of topics. And I just love, love, love working in circles of humans to just kind of be together as a community and change the world, literally, by how we show up for our kids. So that's that.
Oh, well, you are changing the world, my dear, dear friend and sister. And thank you for sharing yourself and all these amazing resources that you offer. For everyone out there, I will also share this a little spot in the newsletter so you can find Deb easily. And thank you so much for being here today and for having this conversation. I look forward
Oh,
to.
thank you.
Oh, one more thing I'm going to
Yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah, everything.
It's a little preview for everyone out there. Deb and I are going to be doing a workshop together where we're combining, her beautiful work of connection and listening and the work I've been doing, the grief space around the same. And it'll be at the Star House in Boulder on September 8th. More information to come, but if you want to come and be in circle with us, we'd love to have you.
We're so excited. We're so, so excited. And I just want to take this last moment to thank you for what you do for our community, for the greater good. Like your sharing of yourself and your wisdom has impacted so many, and you impact me on a daily. So I could go on and on, but a deep bow of respect and gratitude to you. So thank you.
Thank you. Right back to you, sister. Right back to you. Okay. All right,
All
everyone.
right.
That's about all for now. Have a beautiful day. Much love.
Bye.
Bye.